Hello, everybody. This is Andy from Impactivity, talking without limits, and this is the Conversation with podcast, episode 4. We are like really into podcast season now. Absolutely loving it. Even bought myself a microphone because I want to be with you for absolutely ages. Today, I'm joined by Tash, the founder of the Therapeutic Rainbow. Tash, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. I loved that intro.
You know what? I'm just like made for podcasts.
Got your microphone.
Yeah. I'm just made for podcasts. I think I'm expecting like TV deals, everything on the back of this. So when Impactivity closes and I'm on the TV and I'm a big star, remember this day, people. Remember this day. So Tash is a play therapist based in Oxfordshire, working with schools and in private practice. Like I said, the founder of the Therapeutic Rainbow, which is a social media platform created during the first lockdown to support parents with their mental health, and includes a global podcast, which I have just been on as well. So you got 2 episodes for the price of 1 today. So you can listen to both and it will give you an amazing road trip. And also, I think the big thing as well from me is the eventual aim is to turn the Therapeutic Rainbow into a holistic therapy center, which I'm very excited to hear about today. So, like I do with all of my guests, I'm going to pass it over to you now. It's your turn to tell me your story, and then we'll get you in the hot seat and get all those questions fired away at you. So, Tash, over to you.
Thanks for a lovely introduction. So yeah, I guess I'll start at the very beginning. So I trained to be a play therapist. I started my training in 2007, and then qualified in 2010. And at the time, there wasn't really much known about play therapy. It wasn't really out there. You'd never really see a job advert for play therapy. So I was like, oh my God, I've just done all this qualification. What am I going to do? So I thought I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to set up my own business and just see what happens. So I set up the Playworks, which is my play therapy business, back in 2010 and haven't, touch wood, been out of work since, and have mostly been in primary schools. And I started kind of as this like traveling therapist, and I literally used to like move into schools with all my stuff. And so they were like, here she comes with all her bags. Do a client, maybe 1 or 2 in a school, pack it all up and move. And now I've got to the stage where I'm in 1 school for a whole day. So that kind of side has moved away. And I've now got a team of therapists that work with me across Oxfordshire. I've had children in between that as well. So I've got 6-year-old twin girls.
Wow.
So that is, an interesting experience. And I also teach students now to be play therapists. So I teach the first part of the journey as well. So I'm a very, very busy person, but I like to spin many plates. And then back in the first lockdown, obviously there weren't many children going into schools. I was able to go in, but not to see all my clients because they weren't all in. And I was like, well, what can I do? I feel that I need to help these people that are at home. I need to find a way in of what to do. And I thought, I was in the garden. It was the first lockdown. It was really hot, wasn't it? So I felt like I spent a lot of time in the garden. My girls at that time were in nursery. So again, they weren't allowed in a lot of the time. So we were at home together quite a bit. And I was like, what can I do? What can I do to help people? And I was like, there's rainbows everywhere. I love a rainbow. I liked rainbows before. Now I'm a little bit obsessed with rainbows. I was like, I've got to do something with it. I've got to try and find a way. So I came up with this rainbow idea and started thinking, I like a good, I can't even think what the names are, acrostic poem, where you take the letter and you think of a word that begins with that letter. Like I do it a lot with children to build their self-esteem. And I thought there must be words with rainbow. So I started thinking of things to do with the letters of the rainbow. So I started looking at routines and resilience for R, acceptance for A, and carried on all the way through. And I thought, right, I'm going to use that as a social media platform. Everyone was on social media in lockdown. We were on it a lot. And it started with me putting out a video every week on a Monday looking at different things. So I looked at anxiety, I looked at anger, I looked at putting boundaries in place, and then trying to do kind of images, positive images in the week to just go, I'm here.
Yeah.
If you want to know that there's someone on the end of the phone, that's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm.
So it started like that. And then in the December lockdown, I thought, I want to do more. I want to find another way of supporting people. And I thought, I like a good chat, as we have discovered.
Yeah.
And I could talk for England. I'm dyslexic, so I can't write anything down.
Yeah.
But I could talk. I could talk a long time. And I was at my friend, at that time we must have been able to see people, because I was at my friend's house and I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. And they were like, okay, Tash. I was like, no, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to put a Lego together and I'm going to go for it. And they were like, whatever. Anyway, the next week I had my first guest and I was up and I was running. And I have had such an amazing response from people all over the world, where people want to talk. They want to talk about mental health now, which you wouldn't have probably got 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
100%.
they're not just therapists, they're people from all over mental health. So we have had therapists, we've had reflexologists, we've had a financial advisor, we've had your lovely self, we've had lots of people that do Reiki, into mindfulness. And I've just loved connecting and talking with people. And I kind of think, if I can help one person who listens to the podcast, I've got no idea, because I'm not technical, how far it's going, how far and wide, who's actually listening.
Yeah.
But I've thoroughly enjoyed it. The girls have had the most amazing things given to them as a result of the podcast, books and rainbows and positive mindfulness cards. And I think, well, that alone has been amazing.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like one of the most important things about, the stuff that we're doing, just those connections you're building. I know we'd had a chat previously where we spoke about how you're learning from other people's perspectives. And we've just had a chat on your podcast about how your own advice doesn't go in, but you've just said you've spoke to therapists, you've spoke to sports coaches, people from all over the world, where you're like, they're saying the same things, but because you're saying it, I can listen.
Absolutely.
I think that's really, really important, that there are so many people out there having those conversations. And like you said, using social media for positive use. There's so many conversations that we hear day in, day out, how social media is just used for all the bad reasons. But then you look at like your Therapeutic Rainbow page, and I think it's amazing to see. It's empowering. And for smaller people as well, like younger people, I think your page is perfect, because like you said, you've aimed it from that play therapy perspective where they can understand as well, which in turn helps them as they get older, having conversations maybe with those other types of therapy or things like that.
Absolutely. And I think as a parent myself as well, and I'm a single parent to the girls, and the struggles I've been through, and that kind of honesty of, it's not easy all the time. Like you are going to have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
And that is fine. And that acceptance of that. And I did a post on, I think it was last Monday, about Christmas and the pressure we put on ourselves as parents to do it all. And actually, all the children want is just you. They don't need the Christmas dinner at a certain time. They don't need the matching pajamas. But why? And it is social media sometimes that puts this amount of pressure on us
100%
to do it. And I am doing the elf. I love an elf.
Oh, Alf on the Shelf.
But,
is he
but
causing
because
trouble?
I want to. They're causing lots of trouble.
Yeah.
But because I want to do it, not because I'm pressured to do it.
I don't.
And I think parents I talk a lot about mum guilt or parents guilt and why we feel it. And it just upsets me so much that I have so many friends, and I do it myself. As I said, I don't take my own advice. But you put so much pressure on yourself, and then you feel so guilty for not doing it or not doing what you want to. And it's been a massive thing for me that I wasn't going to change who I was when I had the girls.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I have built my business up. I have become a successful businesswoman. Why was I going to just give that up?
No way.
I
Don't.
love them 120%, and they know
Yeah.
that. But equally, I want them to see I go out to work.
Yeah.
I want them to see I go away at weekends for work. I want them to see what mummy can do.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the role that I want them to see. And hats off to anyone that is a stay-at-home. It's not against any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was, I don't want to be known as, and I am to some people, Holly and Anya's mum. Mm-hmm. I want to be known still as me. I want to go for a run. I want to see my friends, and I don't want to feel guilty for that. And I want 100%. Them to see that. Like today, well, it's what, 3:30, 4:45. I want them to know that, yeah, mummy is doing a podcast. You can watch a Christmas film. It is totally okay.
Yeah. 100%. I think before we move on, Mom, if you're listening, I still want a roast dinner. I still want a really good one on Christmas Day. But with I just think that's a really important thing. And like you said, it's all about being empowered and showing the girls like a very good, strong female role model. And like we've had that conversation as well. Why I'm bringing out the podcast is to give people positive male role models in mental health, which is not enough of. It brings me to my first question, I guess. Like within the field of mental health, has your personal experiences with it or parents you've spoke to, has that helped you get involved? Did that help you get involved with play therapy, or has that changed the way you deliver your sessions, the conversations you've had with parents, and then delivering it to the children?
Yeah, definitely. I think personally for me, it was to have a voice, to give children a voice, to know that there are, as we said before, people out there that can listen. And parents, I know myself, we're often on the flip side of what I just said, but we're often very busy. And actually, the whole thing of play therapy is that the child is given that time and that space to be whoever they want to be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the way society is that sometimes children are put into a box, and some children don't fit into that box, and they're never going to fit into that box. So what play therapy allows them to do is to be themselves and not fit into a box. And the box isn't there. But I definitely think I've changed and evolved, and the other side of the rainbow with this holistic center and everything is to do just that. It's to give parents somewhere to go, to give them that self-care, because we do put so much pressure on ourselves to try and fit everything in, to spin. I know I'm a bit pot kettle black because I do spin plates, but sometimes we do just need to drop the plates and just to be.
Yeah, 100%. It's like so important to sometimes look after number one, even if you've got a whole list of priorities. Sometimes it's good to just check in with yourself. And like you said, with that holistic therapy center, just giving people that space to have a little bit of breathing time, a little bit of time to just refocus their energies, I guess. You know, so you've worked with a lot of parents and kids over the last 18 months. Obviously, a lot of people have struggled with their mental health with the lockdown and COVID. From when you were going into schools before lockdown to now, have you noticed a big change with the kids that you're working with? Like, has COVID, I guess, well, it's impacted a lot of people, but has it impacted the kids that you work with and I guess the parents that you work with as well?
Yeah. Absolutely. Unfortunately, there is so much more out there now of need. My private practice wasn't really there before, whereas it's now hugely there. And my waiting list in schools with children that I wouldn't have picked up before, potentially because they weren't shouting the loudest or showing a need, are now showing a need. Anxiety has gone through the roof, and especially like separation anxiety from parents, because they have, a lot of these children, been homeschooled for so long, and now they're having to go back into a society. And we say as therapists that actually you've got to think of a child emotionally potentially is stuck 2 school years behind because that was the last time it was normal. And school is still not normal for anyone.
Yeah.
And I worry at times of the pressure that children are going to be put under.
Yeah.
Especially year sixes when they look at SATs next year, because actually emotionally they're still only year 4. And year 4 to year 6 is massive. And even my girls were nursery and COVID. So they've not really had a full year of school, which has been normal, because they've done reception in year 1 where we were in bubbles or we weren't doing it and thing. And it's just this, I think we'll be seeing a turnout of mental health for years to come, especially with children. Just silly things like nativities they are going ahead, they're not going ahead. Parents are allowed to come, parents aren't allowed to come. It's now one pet. Well, in the girls' school, it's now one parent, not both. But for other schools, it's being filmed. And you just think these children need some state of normality. And unfortunately, I can't see where it's going to be.
100%. I think this has to be the shout out for teachers now, because they are doing, what I can see from teachers I've spoke to, essentially an impossible job. Like you've said, kids have nearly missed 2 years of school, no fault of their own, and are really struggling to perform with their education, which isn't their fault at all. And that's also giving children a lot of anxiety, because they feel like they're failing when they're not. They've been failed in a way. And I think teachers are doing an amazing job right now to keep all those kids together. And like you said, it's all about stability. It's all about trying to gain normalization. But we talk about that with the kids. And then we look at, people like myself, just day-to-day adults who also need that. So when you're looking at it like that, these kids, at least we've got the tools potentially to go and have the conversations. Whereas like with what you're doing, children sometimes don't want to talk. I mean, I started this podcast because I was guilty of not wanting to talk. So I can only imagine if a child can't express their emotions, especially after the last 18 months, what an important job yourself and people like yourself are doing within play therapy, but also those teachers, because at the end of the day, they're therapists on like a day-to-day basis, I guess, right now.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, without the tools,
So it's just, it's crazy. So with that in mind, why is play therapy at the minute, well, in general, I guess, but more so now than ever, why is play therapy so important when we're looking at children's mental health?
I think unfortunately, children don't often have the words to even explore how they feel. We as adults struggle to know. I often go, what am I feeling? Am I tired? Am I hungry? What is it? It's just a bundle of emotions inside, but I can put some clarity to that. Put a child in the mix and they have no idea what's going on. So they respond in a way that feels what they should be doing. So they shout, they scream, they cry, they hit out. So play is something that they do on a day-to-day basis. It's a natural thing for them to do. It's a natural communication. It's a natural language for them. So what play therapy allows them to do is to feel safe, because what's around them is something they're comfortable with. There's a range of tools. There's art, there's sand, there's puppets, there's clay, there's dressing up. So things that children see on a day-to-day basis. And when a child comes into that room, the rules they have are they can do whatever they like as long as they don't hurt themselves, the therapist, or the room around them. And that is massive, because what they're able to do is what they want and be who they want. So a child can come into that room and have that space and that time to do. They don't have to play if they don't want to. If they wanted to sit in the corner for the full session and do nothing, that is accepted. They're accepted as they want to be. And unfortunately, and again, it's no disrespect to anybody else, but in schools, in society, they don't have that time. Teachers have to get jobs done. Things have to be done by a certain time. Parents have to get stuff done. When we're asking, guilty of it myself, a child to get out of the door and get ready for school, it has to be done. It can't not be done.
Yeah.
So what play therapy does is allow that child to not have that rules and limits. For 40 minutes, they can be, and they can express, and they can allow themselves to work through issues in a safe and contained space without pressure. So we as therapists know why they're there.
Yeah.
The children know why they're there. But if they don't want to talk about it, I'm not going to bombard them with questions. I think as adults, if we go into therapy ourselves, and I've done a range of therapies myself, creative and talking, if you're in a state of emotional upheaval and someone's firing questions at you, trying to help, what they think trying to help you, you're like, but I don't actually know that's what you're here for.
Yeah.
Whereas a child can play and work through things through the sand tray or through clay without even realizing what they're doing. And I can't actually truly express what I do because it is magic.
Yeah.
And it is so powerful, but I couldn't put it into words. And that's why the training that I deliver and I teach is all experiential. So therapists go on the journey and they learn it themselves, and they're in that moment and they're in that time, and they go through the sand and they go through music and they go through puppets, and they're like, wow. But I didn't realize I was doing that. I thought I was just picking some objects and putting them in a tray. Why am I crying? Or why am I feeling all these feelings? And I just find every day magic.
Yeah, I think that for me, with some of the experiences I've had, like when I was working in America with the YMCA and stuff like that, you know, when you interact with kids and they trust you enough to open up about a problem, is possibly one of the most powerful things in the world. Like you've just said, it's magic. They've trusted you with it, and to have that trust from them shows what an impact you're having on them. So with that in mind, obviously you are having a lot of those powerful conversations with the kids. Is that something that just builds over time, I guess, with the play? So they'll be playing and then one day it's like, boom, a conversation starts. How does that rapport sort of work? Do you let them just come with their own, you know, come and speak on their own time? Or is that something where you are giving them little questions here and there? How does it actually work?
Yeah, so everything we do is reflective. So if a child was to say something, you'd reflect back what you've heard again, so the child realizes they've been listened to, they've been heard, and you wonder and you notice rather than again those directive questions. But often, and this is where the magic happens, they might not have actually spoken outwardly about their issues. They might have potentially expressed it in the work they're doing, but because it's all non-interpretive, I don't know until that child tells me what it is. So I might have an idea that they're working through something which might correlate to what I know from the parents or from the teachers. But again, until that child chooses to tell me, I won't question it. So the child might never verbalize, but you've seen a change. You might even just notice the child that comes in originally with their kind of head down, very close body language to by session 7, them looking at you in the eye or skipping in the room. So it's subtle things like that. They don't have to actually sit there and say, Tash, I'm feeling like this, or Tash, this has gone through my life, because they might still never have the words. But they've processed something. 100%. And that's where the magic happens.
So with that in mind, from episode 1, I spoke with Sophie from Sophie's Stories, and I know you've spoke to her on your podcast as well, and she does creative therapy. I asked her this question in her podcast, and I'm very interested to see what your response is to this. Obviously, play therapy, a lot of it is centered at children, and the same with creative therapy. With what Sophie's doing now, she's starting to encourage adults to get involved with it. Do you think play therapy could be adapted and could be useful for adults and I guess the parents you're dealing with? One, to understand what you're doing to get their child to open up, and 2, just for a form of alternative therapy for an adult, I guess, because there might be people who are struggling to talk, who want to go down that creative line or associate, maybe not with the sandpits or something, but something that can be adapted to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something as an organization, I know that they're trying to look at now, because of the course, and because I see it from a course director point of view, and I see the students going on their own journey, and I see potentially shyer students on weekend one. So I have 5 weekends with them. So yeah, shyer students on weekend one being the loudest by weekend 5 because of things that have gone on. So absolutely. And I know when I've done creative exercises myself, I have responded so much better, because again, I don't really know why I'm feeling like that or the words to express it, but I can draw a picture and suddenly think, oh, well, there it is in black and white, quite literally.
Yeah.
And I had no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
Because it's what happens when you're working creatively is that you're working at a different level of your brain. So you're going down the layers, and things will come up that you didn't even realize were there. So like, I think if you hear a certain song or you smell a certain thing, it can bring a memory. And you're like, well, why am I suddenly thinking about that now? And that's everything that happens within therapy. And it's why I often say we're not just playing in the room. It's not like that. It's play in the sense of it's a child's natural language, but I'm not playing. I'm having a session with a therapeutic objective. And it's very different. I have a lot of people that say, oh, you get paid to play. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not. It's play with a therapeutic objective.
Yeah, of course.
It's different to the play I do with my own children.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I guess it's the same in a way with my sport. Like when I'm doing the challenges and stuff, there is an aim to it. It may look like, and it is an awful lot of fun, but there is an underlying aim to what we're doing. And when I go out and play rugby on my own, that's my time. But when I'm running the sessions myself, there is that underlying aim. So with that in mind, you know, you've spoke about opening the Holistic Therapy Centre. Are those centres going to be something that are available for all? And I guess following on from what we've just spoke about, obviously a main aim of it is going to be at, you know, children, but you spoke about parents also going to the Holistic Therapy Centre. So how is that going to work? And obviously what are your aims surrounding that?
So the dream really is to have one building where I have lots of different rooms with lots of different people involved in. So obviously there would be the play therapy room, but there would also be holistic other therapies. So whether that be acupuncture, massage, Reiki, adult counselling, so that, because what I see
delivered by Impactivity.
Absolutely, you can come down. I need to be nearer. What I often find is that it's a generational thing. Either children are struggling because of something parents are struggling with, or children are struggling because their parents haven't had that space, like we've talked about, to talk. So the idea behind the centre is the family would come while the child was having, let's say, play therapy. It might not be. It might be occupational therapy. It might be speech therapy. But the parent can access something, whether that be a massage for 40 minutes, or it is just sitting in a room with a cup of tea and a piece of cake. Because it's unbelievable how many times I do not finish a hot cup of tea when the small people are around. And how important it is to have that self-care and to have that space to go. But also the aim with the centre would be that in the holidays and things, family activities would come. So again, families can realise they're not alone. Because again, like we've spoken about, if you hear someone else's story, you think, oh, I'm going to take that advice, or I'm not the only one feeling like that. Where a lot of the time, and especially in lockdown, we felt very alone. And if you can know that there's other people that are going through that, so there'll be workshops for parents, but while the parents are having the workshops to help them, there's something for the children to do. So this is the dream.
No, that's amazing.
A long way away, but then it doesn't, because the private practice I've currently got is based at a rehabilitation sports centre called Oxrad in Oxford, where they have lots of facilities for all different disabilities within the gym. So my private practice for the Therapeutic Rainbow is currently there, and there is coffee facilities. So I am seeing the children, and the parents are sitting.
Oh, there you go.
At 40 minutes with a cup of tea and coffee. So I kind of think it is happening. I just potentially eventually need to take the jump and just go for it.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I don't want to liken it to it, but you look at, families with children suffering from illnesses and stuff, and they have those places to go, like, I don't know, Ronald McDonald houses and stuff like that, where they have that little bit of respite. And you don't really, like me and you spoke about on your podcast, we spoke about if someone's got a visible injury or illness, we know how to treat it, we know how to give the respite. Wouldn't it be nice for once to have mental health spoke about and have that place? So you know what, I'm all for the therapy center. Is there anything listeners can do to help support the therapeutic center?
I guess it's a financial thing, really. I think and that's why the Therapeutic Rainbow has been set up separately to the Playworks, which is the play therapy business, because the Therapeutic Rainbow has been set up as a community interest company, so that I can apply for grants and I can get funding, and I can, because the other thing that I want to support with the Rainbow is, just like you do, is those families that can't afford therapy and need therapy. So the idea would be that we can eventually set grants up so there is a pot of money so I can pay other therapists to conduct therapy for those less fortunate and low income families. So it's open to everybody. It's not just, the private practice isn't just for those parents that can pay for it.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, isn't it? Just making it accessible for all, because at the end of the day, regardless of how rich you are, how poor you are, where you're from, you can suffer with mental health, and it needs to be accessible for all. Like, these conversations can't just be for the rich, the famous, like they need to be for absolutely everybody. So it brings me on to my next question. Like, with your approach to therapy, has it been centered with your parents and stuff, has it been centered around play therapy, or do you use different methods as well? So when you're working with the kids, do you use all different methods, or is it all, I guess you've just said with the holistic therapy, it'll be, everything. I might come for the massage and everything like that.
Yeah, cool.
Do you
open
use,
to everyone? Yeah,
exactly. Hey, do you use like different methods with your kids or your clients, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm mostly play therapy basis, but I'm also a filial coach and mentor, which means that I work with the parents and the children together. So I will work with the parents individually, kind of working through various skills such as focusing and noticing with children, boundaries, acceptance, reflective language. And then what I do is I observe them playing with their child, and I'm almost like that kind of elf, I've got Christmas in my head, like person on their shoulder. So I'm back from the observation, encouraging them, giving them the confidence of how to work with their child, how to play with their child. Because when you have children, there isn't this rule book. You just have a baby, and you're suddenly thrown out there, and it's hard. But so what I can do is coach you and mentor you to work a certain way, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it just gives you those kind of tips and tricks. So a lot of the parenting stuff that I will be doing at the center will be kind of, again, on a bigger scale, kind of giving you those tips and tricks. And I'm not saying I am the perfect parent, because I am certainly not. And I remember people saying to me when I was pregnant was, you're going to be amazing because you have all the skills. But throw your own children in there. And there's a whole load of emotion.
100%. Do you think, you've just said you're shadowing people during those sessions where you're like looking over their shoulder, watching the parents play with the child or interact with the children. Do you think sometimes parents struggle, not because they're bad parents, but because they have got their own mental health issues going on, where they still don't know how to open up? So the thought of listening to a child open up is like tough for them, because they still don't know how to deal with their issues. Definitely. I guess.
And that's why, as I said, it's this generational thing of we need to start at the top and work down. I mean, ideally, I'd have all generations in the center at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's that actually you've heard it enough. That's what your way of thinking is. So you're then going to say that because that's the only thing you know. Yeah. And it's about breaking that cycle. I saw the most amazing graphic the other day where it was generational stuff, and this was violence, but showing what had happened down the generations, and then this like really clear line of it stops with me.
Yeah.
And a different approach with the child. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is just change the way of thinking. And talking about mental health is just that as well. It's breaking it now.
Yeah.
And my children talk about feelings and emotions and how their brain works because they need to understand it.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about, so I talk about the brain as two parts. You've got your animalistic part of your brain, which is like a dog. And then you've got the brain that helps you to learn, which is like a wise owl. So normally they're together and the wise owl is helping you do things. But when you're feeling really, really angry or really, really worried, your dog starts barking. And your dog barks so loud that your owl flies away.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be there. So what does your dog need? Well, a dog needs a drink.
Yeah.
A dog needs some food. A dog might need someone to play with them, or a cuddle. And so I say the dog needs 3 A's. It needs attention, affirmation, or alone time, because sometimes that dog just needs to be left alone.
Yeah.
And when
100%.
those dog gets those needs met, then it's quiet. It starts to regulate.
Yeah.
So the owl will fly back and they can work together.
I absolutely love that.
So that's how I explain the brain to children. And my children, I mean, I've got one more outgoing twin than the other, but she'll often go, "Mummy, whose dog is barking louder right now? Yours or mine?" I was like, I have no idea.
You know what? You've just given me that, and that's just like hit home with me right there. So it's not just, I'm telling you right now, it's not just kids that's hitting home with.
Yeah.
Like you've just said that to me, and like there's been plenty of times where my owl has definitely been gone for a good while. So like you're looking at it like that, and like you said, it's a generational thing, and especially with the conversations with mental health, the more we have now and the more we impact on the younger generations, hopefully when they come to being 30, 40, 50, it's a totally different conversations, and hopefully in a way we're out of a job, if that makes sense. That'd be the dream, the fact that everyone is open. Obviously people would still be struggling, but if everyone can be more open and make us semi-redundant, because we still need to pick up a wage, but you know what I mean, I feel like if the kids of today are happy having those conversations, it makes their lives so much easier moving forward. And I guess that brings me on to the next point now. Obviously you started the podcast with the Therapeutic Rainbow. Is that something that's like helped you with your journey, the conversations you've had, and what sort of support has that given people? Have you had feedback on the support that it's given people from them listening to your podcast?
Yeah, I think it's just little bits, little nuggets of, oh, I haven't thought about it like that, or something you said really changed the way I looked at things. And that's why I set it up. I kind of think, because at first I was like, oh, is it enough? There's so many podcasts out there. And I said that imposter comes in of, should I carry on doing it? And then I thought, well, actually, I might say something exactly the same as somebody else listened to, but whatever I said had stuck into their brain. Like you said, hopefully you will now remember your owl and your dog.
100%. I've wrote it down.
Right. My owl's flown away. What does my dog need? So I can, hopefully what I've done is just given people, not be every week. And I've had a few people feedback I didn't even know were listening, were like, that really resonated with me. And that's what I do it for.
Yeah.
If one person takes something away from your podcast, from my podcast, from something I said, I think, well, I've done a good job.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know what, that's really important what you've brought up there about, yes, there are a lot of podcasts out there talking about mental health right now, but rather than seeing it as like a competition thing, I guess, and they may have said the same thing, I think it's really good because mine and your conversation would be completely different if you were speaking to another play therapist or another sports therapist. Everyone's got totally different views, and gaining those perspectives increases your education on mental health issues. There's always something you're learning. Like you just said, I've just wrote down AAA, get that dog sorted. You know, like it's stuff like that you take away and you probably don't appreciate at the time. Like I'm saying that now, but I'll probably be listening back to the podcast driving to work next week, and I'll hear that again and I'll be like, oh wow, yeah, the owl's not been here for a couple of days, sort of thing, you know. And,
he's blown away far.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's what you've got to take out of it. Yes, there are a lot of podcasts out there, and there's loads that I could shout out about and be like, go and listen to this, go and listen to this.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing to do with the competition. You know, you've got some shows where, they're like, don't listen to this, as in away from mental health. But I think what's really good about the mental health field and the podcasts that I've listened to, everybody champions each other, because they know that everybody brings something different to the table, and something at some point during your podcast episodes or your workshops or your work in schools, you are going to bring something to the table that nobody else can, which is incredible. So we're nearly at the end of the podcast now, but everyone gets really excited for this, and I need to work a way out of like putting some magical music to this, because everyone gets really excited about the listener Q&A, famous listener Q&A. Just like I say on every other episode, I have gave Tash the questions in advance because I'm an amazing podcast host. I'm really nice, and I don't want to put people on the spot all the time. So we've gave the questions in advance. So Tash, are you ready to be in the hot seat under the light to have your Q&A right now? Yeah,
it's quite like listeners from the pub, questions from the public. You need a little jingle.
That's what I mean. I could just sing it, but I don't want to lose listeners. What I might do,
I've lost them for you.
Yeah, just like there's no jingle coming from me, you know. Maybe I'll do some like voice lessons over Christmas, and I'll see what I can do in the new year. Right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so the first question is from Jess, and she says, well, I mean, we've spoke about it a little bit already during the podcast, but who does the Therapeutic Rainbow support? Who's it mainly aimed at, and who do you want it to be aimed at going forward?
Yeah, so the social media platform and the podcast, while originally started with parents in mind, it has absolutely grown to anybody can listen to the podcast who has an interest in mental health, who might be struggling with their mental health, who is a parent that wants some tips and tricks. But because I've opened it up to so many more audience, it's kind of everybody can listen to it, really. So that's why I want to spread the message. And then, as I've said previously, the centre will be mostly for families to come and to have that holistic support.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. I mean, like I said, we'd mentioned it a lot, but I think what you're doing is incredible. And if, you know, listeners do get the chance, obviously we'll give you a chance at the end, Tash, to tell people how they can find you. But if you do get the chance, I tell you to go and look at the Therapeutic Rainbow page, because it gives you a totally different perspective from where I'm coming from Impactivity with our sport and stuff. It gives you a totally different perspective on mental health, especially from a younger age and maybe from a parent's perspective, which I don't have. And you get all those great analogies like the dog and the owl. So go and check it out, but we'll give that information out in a while. You ready for your next question?
I am, yeah.
Perfect. So this is from Josh. He says, what are some of the things that you do personally to ease your mind if your mental health is struggling?
Yeah, so I am a runner. So for me, running is definitely something I do to help with my mental health, either individually, just kind of, even if it's a quick kind of 5K round the block, that helps, or with friends. Like I said in our episode that we did for my podcast, like I have a lot of running friends, and they are a big part of my life. Because we able to talk about things that you don't talk about with most people, because you have that time and you have that space. So running definitely is massive for me. I don't really care if I'm judged. I'm a big believer of trashy telly.
Okay.
I like a good trashy telly in the evening. The children have gone to bed.
Yeah.
It's quiet. I put some trashy telly on with a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And that resets everything.
What's the guilty pleasure? What's the guilty pleasure?
Well,
What
at the moment,
recommendations
it's
are you
all
gonna
about at the moment it's all about I'm a celebrity.
Okay. Right. So
Yeah.
question about I'm a celebrity. This is going a little bit off tangent. One, would you go on it? And two, would you back yourself in the bush tucker trials?
Yes, I'd go on it. I think I'd be okay on the trials until I have to drink something.
All right. Hey, I'd absolutely love that. Just down the pint. I'd be all
Yeah,
for it.
no. But yeah, no.
So you'd go on it. There you go.
I would go on it, yeah.
And now you've told everyone what you'd struggle with. So when you're a celebrity, we're all going to be voting you in for the drinking trial. That's 100% what's just happened to you. You've done this twice this afternoon. You did it on your podcast, and I'm going to tell everyone who's listening to this one as well, so you've got it double. You told everyone
if they give me some money.
Yeah, you told everyone that you're going to do a skydive. So that was the
all
first
for the
thing
rainbow.
Today. Yeah, all for the rainbow. And what I'm saying right now, no one else knows because they've not heard anything yet. You are going to do a bush tucker trial before you do the skydive. It's going to be sponsored, everyone. So you got to sponsor Tash, but she will do a bush tucker drinking trial before the skydive. You heard it here first. There's your exclusive right there.
Brilliant.
And it's out
back to what I do for my mental health. What else do I do? I mean, I love my girls. So I mean, today we have been at a they were on an inset day. So we've been at a trampolining park bouncing for 2 hours.
There we go.
And that is, I mean, hanging around with 2 6-year-olds while it's hard work, it's also a hell of a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And I am a big kid. I like a good fancy dress. I like just being a child.
That's awesome. And I bet they really love you, like getting involved as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely the mad one according to all their friends. Like their birthday party, fancy dress. Obviously, I was dressed up too.
There you go. Can't beat that. Can't beat that at all. Right, you've nearly made it to the end, and we've gone off on many tangents from that one. You know, I actually enjoyed that question because we got to find out some very interesting things. Right, the last question, and I guess this has been covered a little bit as well, is from Alex. How does play therapy work for you, and you know, how do you deliver it, and is it, I guess, delivered the same way from all play therapists, or are there different methods?
Yeah, so we're all taught the same, as in everyone goes through the same journey to be a play therapist, although there's many organizations that you can train with. But at the end of the day, you have the same qualification. But I think your own individuality, your own personality, your own story will develop you as a therapist. So I think that is key. But I think we've talked about, so it's all child-led. So we say a play therapy session is non-directive. So the child can choose to do whatever they want in the room, whether that to be play or not play. It's non-interpretive. So I'm not going to question them about what they're doing. And until they're ready to tell me, I won't ask any questions. So I might think things, but I'm not going to interpret them. And it's non-judgmental. So that child can come into the room and be whoever they want to be. If they want to be a completely different person in the room, that's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong, so they're not praised or blamed in the room. So unless they're doing something that's unsafe, they can do things a certain way. So with playing a game, you don't have to follow the rules. It's the rules that they want to play.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
A holistic way of being.
There we go. There we go. You will be pleased to know you have survived the listener Q&A.
My bush tucker trial.
Yeah, without the jingle, but you've signed yourself up for a few charity events right there.
That's fine.
Notice that I didn't say anything because it will be picked up on straight away. So obviously we've gone through all those questions. How can people who have listened today get in contact with you or follow you and find out more about what you're doing with the Therapeutic Rainbow?
So social media, Instagram and Facebook, it's at the Therapeutic Rainbow. You can follow my podcast. You can come and listen to all those episodes. So I'm a bit ahead of you. I've done 34 episodes of season 1. And then I had a little break, and now I think you were episode 4 of season 2. So there's loads of amazing people to listen to, and you can find that podcast on all podcast apps. And then if you're interested more about the play therapy side, then the play therapy website is the Playwork. So it's www.theplaywork.org. And the Therapeutic Rainbow has a website as well. But I'll send Andy all those details, and you can put them all in the show notes.
Yeah,
but Instagram 100%. And Facebook is definitely the main bit for the Therapeutic Rainbow.
100%. Yeah, I will make sure that all of that information is put in the show notes and on my social media, because I think there's going to be a lot of people, parents who have listened to this who may be interested in that. From me, Tash, I want to say thank you for coming on. You've been an amazing guest, and once again, it's been a real opportunity for me to geek out, I guess, on something that, you know, is completely in the unknown to me. The guests that have come on so far, it's been amazing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, and make sure that owl keeps flying.
I will definitely be reminding myself of that constantly now. It's going to be so hard to forget. And I will also be reminding you of your charity event if it's not seen within the next year. Okay, so
okay.
That's what we'll do. That's the deal. With that in mind, everyone, with that in mind, that brings an end to episode 4. Like Tash said, I am way behind on her, so I've got catching up to do. But we've got some amazing guests lined up over the next few weeks before I'm giving myself a little Christmas break. As always, if you want to give us feedback, give it on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, everywhere. Just give us feedback at Impactivity, Talking Without Limits. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll speak soon.